Hi, and welcome to my Apple Watch Series 7 1-month review. Now this video is going to be a little bit different than the ones you've already seen on YouTube because I actually use the Apple Watch Series 7 as a standalone device. I don't use it as an accessory with the iPhone, but I actually use it as a phone replacement together with the iPad Pro, and so this review is going to have a slightly different focus than most reviews on YouTube. In this video, I first of all want to tell you about my expectations towards the Apple Watch Series 7 as a standalone device, where they are coming from, and then also whether the Apple Watch Series 7 has lived up to those expectations. To understand my expectations towards the new Apple Watch model, we first have to talk about the history of the Apple Watch for a minute and see why I think that it can be a standalone device. So for that, let's start with the original Apple Watch. And as you probably know, when the Apple Watch was launched, it was not meant as a standalone device, and you can tell very clearly by a few things. First of all, connectivity. The original Apple Watch did only use Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to communicate to an iPhone. And once you went away from your iPhone, there was basically no connectivity. And the Apple Watch as a standalone device, at least the original Apple Watch, was pretty much useless. And secondly, there are a few apps, very few exceptions, that actually did run on the Apple Watch, the original one. For example, the workout app would work without an iPhone, so you could go for a run without taking your iPhone. But most other apps would actually run on your iPhone and not on the Apple Watch. So for example, back in the day there was an Instagram app, but if you were away from your iPhone, opening that wouldn't do anything because it didn't actually run on the Apple Watch processor. Instead, those apps were running on your phone and they would only transmit the data that was supposed to be displayed to the watch, and then the watch would only basically act as a display. Now, with the years passing by, the Apple Watch has come a long way. First of all, we got cellular connectivity with the Apple Watch Series 3. Now this was a huge step because now you could take your Apple Watch without the iPhone and receive cellular calls and even use some apps on the go. Moreover, at some point, I think with the Apple Watch Series 2, the Apple Watch started to actually run apps on its own processor. So even without the iPhone, apps could be used. And on top of that, they also would be much faster because they would actually run on the Apple Watch's silicon and wouldn't have to be first run on the iPhone and then sort of transmitted to the Apple Watch. In addition to those things, we also got bigger displays over the years, and once the Apple Watch Series 4 came out, we got to a point where I personally thought I could probably use the Apple Watch as a phone replacement. So back in the day I got the Apple Watch Series 4 with the cellular module. I took my iPhone, I plugged it in and basically just went Apple Watch only, in addition to having the iPad Pro for sort of more serious tasks. Now this worked out pretty well for me, but I discovered a few limitations, and those limitations are exactly where my expectations for the Series 7 came from when it was launched. The two pain points that I had with the Apple Watch Series 4 were battery life and sort of the capabilities as a standalone device when it comes to the keyboard. So let's first talk about battery life. For me, the Series 4's battery life would exactly last one day when it was new. So once you would go on cellular data, the battery life would decrease quite quickly. And if you would kind of manage the battery life a little bit throughout the day, you could just get from sort of 8, 9 a.m. to the evening when you went to bed. Now, this was kind of okay in the beginning, but then throughout the 3 years that I used the Apple Watch Series 4, the battery life decreased further, and in the end my battery health was around 75%. And at that point, going to the gym with only the Apple Watch, not with a phone, going on cellular data and running a workout would kill the battery from 100% in 2 to 3 hours. So obviously that's not going to get you through the day and is not going to be suitable as a phone replacement. So that's the first pain point and first sort of thing that I'm looking for with the Series 7 is much improved battery life. And the second thing I'm looking for is, as I said, the input possibilities. With the Series 4, you had basically 3 methods of inputting data. The first one was the Scribble keyboard, which was very cumbersome to work with. It did work, you were able to sort of write short texts, but that's about it. And also, it was kind of a hit or miss. The second input method was Siri. And again, for some things, Siri is very nice, but there are a lot of situations where you don't just want to talk to your watch to dictate messages. And finally, the third input method is to use your iPhone keyboard. Now personally, I don't really see the point in using your iPhone keyboard to input something on the Apple Watch, because if you have your iPhone with you, then just use your iPhone instead. It has a bigger screen and it's just, I guess, the better device to do most things. So for me, this third input method never really made sense. Now, in addition to that, Apple Watch Series 7 added a new feature that is basically a swipe keyboard that you can also just normally type on to input whatever you need much more comfortably. And in addition, one more feature that I found with the latest version of watchOS is that the Apple Watch is now capable of filling in passwords in its hidden browser. I'm going to start by systematically first talking about those two things, the battery system and the input to the Apple Watch and my experiences with that. And then I'm also going to go a little bit deeper into some specific situations that I tried out with the Apple Watch Series 7 to tell you how it went and how it worked for me as a sort of standalone device. So let's start with the first part of this review, which is the Apple Watch Series 7's battery system. Now note that I'm specifically saying battery system instead of battery life, because the Apple Watch Series 7's battery is actually pretty much exactly the same as with the Series 4 onwards. Now, I believe the Series 5 or Series 6 got a slight increase in the battery size, but the always-on display kind of trades that away for it to be pretty much exactly the same battery life since the Series 4. However, there's one massive improvement with the Series 7, and that is the charging speed. The new Apple Watch Series 7 comes with a new charging puck that is able to charge your Apple Watch roughly 30% faster if you have it connected to a USB-C power adapter. And from my experience over the last weeks, I can tell you that this makes a huge difference. Now, the battery life is actually roughly the same, and for the moment, obviously my battery health is still at 100% after just a month of use. But I can tell you that I use the Apple Watch Series 7 basically 24 hours around the clock, and I have very rarely dropped the battery life below 20%. And this is because the fast charging is incredibly useful and allows you to easily top off your battery whenever you need it. The way I use the Apple Watch Series 7's fast charging is basically this. In the morning, I get up and take it off my wrist from sleep tracking. Then I put it on the charging puck and go to the bathroom, take a shower, get ready for the day, and by the time I'm out of the bathroom, the battery is pretty much at 100%. Not always at exactly 100%, but above 90 for sure. Then I put it on my wrist and I go about my day. I work, I go for walks, I go grocery shopping, I go to the gym, whatever I need to do. And then when I come home in the evening after the gym, it's almost always above 50% still. Now this 50% number is actually really interesting because it means that the battery doesn't drop super low throughout the day. And this is with perfect battery health. Now, of course, with the next 1 or 2 years passing by, the battery health will decrease. But even if then, by the time I come home at night, it drops to, let's say, 20 or even 10%, we're still at a range where I can charge it up before I go to bed. So that's basically what I do then. Once I come home, I take the Apple Watch off, sit on the couch, watch a bit of TV, whatever I do in the evening, and just let it charge. And then, once I'm ready to go to bed, I brush my teeth, put it on my wrist again for sleep tracking, and it will again be pretty much at 100%. Sometimes a little bit lower, 80, 60, 70, whatever. But then anyway, I go to bed, I do the sleep tracking again, and then in the morning, after sleep tracking, I take it off, repeat the cycle, put it on the charging puck, and by the time I'm out of the bathroom, it will be at 100% again. So basically, I take the Apple Watch off in a 24-hour cycle, I would say for 1.5 hours at most, and the battery holds up perfectly throughout the whole day. So this is why I'm confident in saying that the Apple Watch Series 7's battery system, not necessarily battery life, but the battery system, including the fast charging, will get you throughout the day and will finally allow you to truly use the Apple Watch Series 7 as a phone replacement. Having talked about the battery life, let's get into the second part and talk about the Apple Watch Series 7's new keyboard. Now, I was very excited about this feature and I can say that it lived up to a lot of my expectations, but not all of them. In my last video where I unboxed the Apple Watch Series 7, I was pretty excited about it, and the first time typing on it was already pretty good. I hit most of the keys, and in the past month, using it more and more, I actually sort of got pretty good at typing on it. Obviously, it's not as good as typing on a full-size iPhone keyboard or iPad keyboard even, but it's still pretty good and it's a vast improvement over what we had before in the old Apple Watches. There are a few limitations to the new keyboard that I found throughout the last month, and I really don't understand why Apple did some of them. So if you have an explanation for me, please let me know. The first thing is that there are a lot of apps that are not yet optimized for Apple Watch Series 7. You can't really tell because those apps just shrink down to the Apple Watch Series 6 screen size basically, and because of the OLED screen and the black borders around it, you really can't see it if you don't look for it. And it just looks like a normal app more or less, but it's actually a tiny bit smaller. And these apps categorically just disable the new keyboard. And then you fall back to the old mechanisms of Scribble, Siri, and the iPhone keyboard basically. Now this is somewhat understandable because developers simply need to adjust the apps to fit the whole Apple Watch screen and maybe even implement new APIs to use the new keyboard. But at that point, I guess we should get the keyboard in most scenarios. But what I really don't understand is that there are even some apps from Apple itself that simply do not support the new keyboard for some reason. So for example, if you go into the Maps app and you are looking for some, I don't know, a restaurant or something like that, you will simply not be offered the new keyboard. You can't use it. You still have to fall back to Scribble, Siri, or the iPhone keyboard. Alright, just quickly, editor flow here, making a quick correction. Between filming this video and finishing the edit, Apple actually released an update to watchOS, version 8.1.1, and this one fixes the issue of the new keyboard not showing up in the Maps app completely. So 2 thumbs up for that, and this just underlines my argument that this is a pure software limitation and can be resolved for all apps in all scenarios in the future. And then the second thing that I really don't understand and that I think is massively distracting when using the Apple Watch is that the new swipe keyword seems to only work when you have the language set to English. Now, for example, if you go to the Messages app and you send a message and type in English, then you will be offered the new keyboard and it works like a charm. You can swipe, you can also press the keys, it works perfectly. But as soon as you change the language to, for example, German in my case, it simply gets disabled. It just disappears as if it never was there and you fall back to Scribble, you fall back to Siri or the iPhone keyboard. Now I understand why maybe the swipe feature needs to be re-implemented for other languages because the patterns for the words need to be retrained to some degree. Although to be fair, on the iPhone and other platforms this already works and I wouldn't really understand why those patterns wouldn't be transferable to the Apple Watch, but maybe I'm missing something, fair enough. What I really don't understand is since you can just type on this keyboard like a normal person, just clicking the keys, you don't have to necessarily swipe. I don't understand why Apple doesn't just simply disable autocorrect then and just lets us type on the keyboard like you normally would. Now obviously this is a pure software limitation and I'm sure that with software updates in the future this will be lifted. And Apple, if for some reason you are listening, please just enable the keyboard by default everywhere where you can type. I don't understand why it's not enabled to type, for example, in Maps when you're looking for a restaurant. One more thing that I want to say regarding the keyboard that I found in watchOS when starting to use it throughout the last weeks is that if you use it with the sort of hidden browser that you can access through the Shortcuts app, that the Apple Watch is actually now capable of autofilling passwords. Now this is something that I specifically complained about with the older versions of the Apple Watch, that typing passwords with Scribble was practically impossible. Like, I guess if you were incredibly patient, you could make it work, but it was pretty much impossible. Now you have the new keyboard to type the passwords, which is already a massive improvement. But on top of that, you don't even need to type the passwords anymore, because if you have them in your iCloud keychain, you can just auto-complete them at this point, which is obviously super nice and a massive improvement over what we had before. Let me walk you through a few usage scenarios that I had with the Apple Watch Series 7 in the past few weeks, and also through some of the scenarios that I had with the Apple Watch Series 4 before COVID and that I think will still apply to the Series 7, even though I haven't explicitly tested them. First, in the past few weeks I tested the Series 7 a lot in the gym, so I've been going to the gym always without my iPhone, without exception, and then basically I would only wear the Apple Watch Series 7, have my AirPods in, listen to music, have it on cellular data the entire time, listen to podcasts, so continuous data stream downloading stuff. I never use actually downloaded music or downloaded podcasts on the watch, but always stream them. And this has worked flawlessly. Even with fitness tracking, the battery would hold up really well in the gym, no problems at all. The second use case I especially tested in the last few days here in the German Alps was taking hikes and going on really long walks with the Apple Watch Series 7 only. So again here it was using fitness tracking the entire time for like outdoor walks basically or hikes, and in addition it would run on cellular data the entire time. Now granted I wouldn't be listening to music or anything like it, I would always have the AirPods in, and if someone would give me a call for example I would just put one AirPod in and take the call, no problem. However, in this scenario, without downloading anything actively during the hike, the battery life would be excellent and I would see very little drop throughout the day. One scenario that I haven't managed to test with the Series 7 yet, but I can speak a little bit from experience with the Series 4, is what happens if you go to an office and leave your iPhone at home. So pre-COVID, I used to do that all the time, leave my iPhone at home, go to the office only with the Series 4, back in the day when the battery was still good enough to do that on the Series 4. And basically what I experienced is that if you have a Wi-Fi network that your Apple Watch can connect to, the battery life improves dramatically compared to when it runs on cellular network. And this also applies, by the way, if you take the iPad with you, because the Apple Watch can actually automatically connect to your personal hotspot on your iPad. And I mean, the battery in the iPad is so big that you're not going to kill it in a day, basically no matter what you do. And so running a personal hotspot on it is also not really a problem, and the Apple Watch can just connect it. So if you take the iPad with you wherever you go, the battery life on the Apple Watch will be very good and you don't have to be worried about it. If you go to an office where you have Wi-Fi, you're pretty much also good throughout the whole day and don't need to worry about the battery life. The only scenarios where you might need to be worried is if you go somewhere where you don't have Wi-Fi, don't have your iPad. And then I can say the Series 7's battery life compared to the Series 4 for me was incredible. After 1 month of using the Apple Watch Series 7, I have two very concrete wishes. The first one going out to Apple. I wish it was possible to pair the Apple Watch directly with the iPad. The combination of the mobility of the Apple Watch and the productivity of the iPad, in my opinion, is unmatched. And currently this is not possible, leading to weird workarounds with the hotspot to save the Apple Watch's battery life. Also, at the moment, it's not possible to see, for example, the fitness data on the iPad, because the fitness app is only available on the iPhone and the data only gets transferred there as well. So please let us pair the Apple Watch with the iPad directly. The second wish goes out more to the developer community. When the first Apple Watch came out, a lot of apps were launched, for example, the Instagram app and so on. But I guess because the Apple Watch was somewhat of a letdown, the first Apple Watch at least, when it came to utility and also performance, I guess some developers abandoned the platform again and not a lot of new apps come to the Apple Watch. I wish this would change again, because I really believe that the Apple Watch has a lot of unused potential, especially when unleashed from the iPhone. So to my fellow developer colleagues, please bring the Apple Watch apps back and let's develop some cool new apps for the Apple Watch so that it can grow as a platform and be even more useful. Let me try to come to a conclusion to this video and a recommendation on whether you should consider the Apple Watch Series 7 as your next Apple Watch. In the first category of people, I see people who are seriously considering to use the Apple Watch as their full phone replacement and their only sort of mobility device. In this case, I can say with confidence, just go for it, get the Apple Watch Series 7. Even if you have an Apple Watch Series 6, the new charging system, the slightly bigger screen and the new keyboard are going to make the difference, and it's actually really nice. You should give it a go. If you only want to use the Apple Watch as a phone accessory and you already have an Apple Watch, the situation gets a bit more complicated. If you have anything older than an Apple Watch Series 4, I can say the upgrade that you are getting is quite massive. The new screen, all the health sensors, the better performance, the better battery life, it's probably worth it. You should seriously consider it. If you are coming from Apple Watch Series 4, it gets a little bit more complicated. You already have the bigger screen, not quite as big as the Series 7, but probably big enough for most things you want to do. But chances are, since the Apple Watch Series 4 is quite old at this point, and if you had it since the release date, your battery is probably quite short as well. And you should seriously considering looking into either replacing the battery or going for a newer Apple Watch. And if you are going for the upgrade anyway, in addition to everything I talked about in this video, you're also getting the blood oxygen meter, you're getting the always-on display, and yeah, basically a fresh battery. So I think if you are coming from a Series 4, the upgrade is probably still worth it. From an Apple Watch Series 5 onwards, it gets a bit more complicated because Series 5 already has the always-on display. So basically there are only two reasons why you would upgrade. One, you are unhappy with the Series 5's battery life, then you can go for the Series 7's new battery system that will allow you to quick charge and basically solve that problem. The other reason would be the blood oxygen meter. So if you are super into the health sensors, then it's still a good upgrade and you can probably consider it. Finally, if you are coming from the Apple Watch Series 6, it gets very difficult because basically you are only getting the new keyboard, the faster charging system and the slightly bigger screen. So the only reasons I see coming from the Series 6 to upgrade is if you are unhappy with the battery life. For example, if you find that after sleep tracking throughout the night you are left with too little battery to make it throughout the day, then the Series 7 can resolve this. The other reason you might go for the upgrade is because of the bigger screen. So if you are in any way unhappy with the Series 6's screen, you can try to go for the Series 7 to get the bigger screen. Finally, if you don't have an Apple Watch yet and you want to go for your first Apple Watch, you have basically three options at this point. Apple is still offering the Series 3, but I would strongly discourage you from getting it because it only has 8 GB of mass storage, and at this point in 2021, almost 2022, it has the issue that when you want to upgrade the software, it basically always forces you to do a factory reset because it can't store both of the upgrade file and your user data in those 8 GB. Now this is quite the pain, and I don't think it's basically worth getting the Series 3, because in addition to that you also get quite the old watch. Even though the battery would probably be fresh and good, the performance generally is just not quite there in 2022. The other option you could go for is the Apple Watch SE, And if you don't mind not having the always on display, and if you are not super into the health sensors and just want a really nice smartwatch, then the Apple Watch SE is definitely one to consider. It's basically an Apple Watch Series 4 or roughly Apple Watch Series 5 without the health sensors and without the always on display, and for the price I think it's a great option. And finally, if you just want to be on the bleeding edge, you just want the nicest smartwatch that Apple sells and probably the nicest smartwatch just in general, then the Apple Watch Series 7 is a good choice. And if you potentially see yourself giving this experiment a try where you use the Apple Watch as your only device, as your phone replacement, then again I would encourage you to give it a shot. That concludes my 1 month review of the Apple Watch Series 7. I will probably do a long-term review around 6 months of owning it, and if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. If you enjoyed this video in particular, I would like to ask you to hit the like button because it really helps the channel grow. And yeah, in general, if you want to see more videos around tech, productivity and software engineering, then I will be trying to make a lot more in 2022 and also from there on. So again, I would ask you to subscribe or invite you to subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for considering it. And if you have any questions left on how I use the Apple Watch as a standalone device or on the Apple Watch Series 7 in general, then feel free to put those in the comments below. I'll try my best to answer all of them. Thank you very much for watching this video. I wish you a great day and I'll talk to you in the next one.